Well, hi. Just thought I'd sit here, thought I'd talk to you for a second while I'm sitting here waiting for Karen. The nail salons are open in our state, so she is getting her nails done. We wrote a book last year that came out last year called I Must Not Be a Real Pastor. And it was about our experiences as a first-time pastor. We had been in the ministry for several years. We had been associate pastor, what's called adult ministries pastor at a church in Florida. We had been children's pastor when we were given a chance to be a senior pastor. I grew up in a pastor's family. I had seen the good and the bad. I've seen my family go through when I was about 7 years old, somebody actually trying to kill us. So I know what can happen, good and bad, in a pastor's home. But we wrote this book because when our first pastorate really kind of went into it with a little bit of a Pollyanna idea and thought, that okay, I know what can happen, but it's not going to happen. But it did. And so we wrote that book kind of based on our experiences. Now we kept names out of it. We didn't even put genders in it. We didn't even put locations because it's not my intent. It was not our intent, and I must not be a real pastor to toast anybody. It was just kind of to tell our story, to kind of share our story, because we are pastors of a small church. Most books are written by pastors of big churches, and we had to self-publish our book because most publishers are not going to look at the pastor of a small church and give them a contract to write a book. So we wrote this book. We got it published just to let people know that there are some things going on out there that you just don't always know about, and maybe to help somebody else be prepared for it, what they may not be prepared for. And every time that there's a suicide of a pastor, it kind of brings up to me the idea of why we wrote it. I think about there, but for the grace of God, go I. Now, I don't know if Darren Patrick's suicide a couple of weeks ago, his death a couple of weeks ago, was an intentional suicide or was it accidental. I still haven't heard any definitive word on that, but there's just been too many. And I saw a post today about a pastor writing about how there could be a coming pastoral crash because so many pastors are now involved in doing things they've never done before, doing things on video, doing things live to an empty audience, having to try and care for their congregation without being able to actually see or touch their congregation. How many now are it's very, very common that we don't take a day off anyway, or we have to be forced to take a day off, or even if our days off end up with the cell phone in one hand talking to somebody while we're trying to do something with our family. But now that the days are kind of running together, many pastors are working themselves even more than they used to. And I guess most people would think we're working less. Probably don't see that. I probably see working more. I mean, in my case, in Karen's case, we're trying to actually write one of our next books. We have one written that we haven't published yet. And we have one about 50 or so pages in, another one about 50 or so pages in, that we're trying to get done and take advantage of. But there's a lot of things that we're having to do. And at this point, we're not even senior pastors. We're children's pastors again. But there's just a lot of concern about the mental and emotional health of pastors. And so since that was part of the reason for writing the first book, I Must Not Be a Real Pastor, I just wanted to encourage you. If you're out there and you're watching this and you are in ministry, or if you are a senior pastor or an associate pastor or a staff pastor, or if you just go to church, or people in your family who are pastors, give them some encouragement. Encourage yourself. Spend some time in prayer, but realize that there's things we can't handle, things that we can't understand, things that we don't know what's going on right now, and that's okay. We don't have to have all the answers. And yes, our congregation is looking for answers, but we don't have to have all the answers. And let God help you. Let God give you the rest you need, the peace you need, and be sure you take care of yourself. And I see Karen about to get ready to come out of the come out of the salon, so I will bid you adieu. But I hope you have a great day, and let you know that we are praying for you too.